The movie starts with a ronin named Hanshiro Tsugumo. Hanshiro visits a grand house owned by the Lee clan. He meets the clan leader, Saito Kageo, and introduces himself as a samurai from the Fukushima Masanori family. Hanshiro tells Kageo that he wants to perform harakiri, a ritual where a samurai ends his life by cutting his stomach with a sword to restore his honor after failing his duties. Hearing this, Mr. Kageo agrees and tells Hanshiro about a young man named Chijiwa Motome, who had also come to perform seppuku at his house not long ago. The scene shifts to the past, in early autumn 1634, when 20-year-old Motome arrives at Mr. Kageo's house to commit seppuku. Mr. Kageo accepts his request and lets him bathe and change before the ritual. When the time comes, all of Kageo's samurai gather for the ceremony. Omataka, a senior samurai, leads the seppuku, noting how rare it is to witness such an event. Motome, now ready, realizes his sword is missing from under his bed. Omataka soon arrives and insists that Motome come to the main courtyard to begin, but Motome, feeling afraid, asks for a moment to gather his courage. Omataka ignores his plea and forces him to the courtyard. After some time, Mr. Kageo briefly praises Motome for choosing to commit seppuku at his house, which was considered a great honor for a samurai and the house hosting it. When it is time for the ritual, Motome hesitates and begs for one more day. However, the samurai refuse, and Mr. Kageo denies his request, saying he cannot allow any delays in a seppuku that has already been arranged. Motome had no choice but to go through with the seppuku. Omataka handed him a bamboo sword, which was a replacement for his real one. It turned out Omataka had taken Motome's original sword and switched it with the bamboo sword on purpose. Before the ritual, Motome had begged Mr. Kageo to lend him 3 ryos to care for his sick wife and child. Motome had come to Kageo's place because he heard young samurais could perform fake seppuku there to get money. When Mr. Kageo didn't respond, Motome had no choice but to continue with the seppuku. He repeatedly stabbed the bamboo sword into his stomach until it broke. In terrible pain, Motome asked the samurais to kill him, but Omataka refused, letting him suffer. Mr. Kageo, unable to watch Motome's agony, approached him and ended his pain by slashing his neck. The story then returns to Hanshiro's seppuku at Kageo's place. Mr. Kageo and his samurais gather in the courtyard for Hanshiro's ritual. Before starting, Hanshiro makes a final request. He wants Omataka Hikakuro, Mr. Kageo's most loyal follower, to be present. Mr. Kageo sends a samurai to find Omataka, but Omataka and 2 other samurais are missing. Realizing that Hanshiro may have done something to them, Mr. Kageo prepares to attack. Hanshiro calmly asks everyone to listen to his story before fighting. He promises to let the samurais confront him after he finishes. Hanshiro explains that Chijiwa Motome was his son-in-law. The scene flashes back to the past, when Hanshiro was invited to the Japanese emperor's palace to work as a builder. He had to leave his daughter, Miho, alone at home since his wife had passed away. The next day, Hanshiro and Mr. Chijiwa, Motome's father, went to the palace to repair the fence. Soon, some men approached Mr. Chijiwa, asking him to fix the fort. He refused because it went against the Japanese war treaty rules. One man then informed him that the Shogun family, a powerful clan, had already agreed to do the job. This made Mr. Chijiwa uncertain about whether to proceed with the work or not. The next day, Hanshiro and Miho visited Mr. Chijiwa's house, where Miho met Chijiwa Motome, Mr. Chijiwa's son, for the first time. Hanshiro and Mr. Chijiwa discussed the Shogun clan, and Hanshiro suspected that the Shogun clan was secretly plotting to get rid of their old enemies. However, Mr. Chijiwa hoped this wasn't true. 2 years later, in 1619, the Shogun clan issued a decree against Mr. Chijiwa's clan, accusing them of breaking war rules by building a fort without permission. As punishment, the clan was banished, and their buildings were to be destroyed. Hanshiro's suspicions were proven right. The Shogun clan had set up Mr. Chijiwa's clan to get rid of them. Hearing this, Mr. Chijiwa, who was very ill, felt devastated and wanted to commit seppuku. But his health was too poor. As Mr. Chijiwa lay dying, Hanshiro comforted him, promising to take care of Motome. In 1620, the Fukushima clan was also disbanded, causing Hanshiro to lose his job as a court samurai. To support Motome and Miho, Hanshiro started making and selling paper umbrellas. One day, Hanshiro and Motome went fishing at a lake. After a few hours, they caught a goldfish, which they used as food for their meal that day. On their way back, they saw a parade heading toward the grand mansion of the Lee family. Motome told Hanshiro that when he grew up, he wanted to work at the mansion to repay Hanshiro and Miho for their kindness. 10 years later, Hanshiro's family situation hadn't improved much. Hanshiro continued to work as an umbrella maker, and Miho, now grown up, helped by teaching children to read and write. One night, Hanshiro asked to speak with Motome. He asked Motome to marry Miho, saying he wanted his daughter to be with someone who truly loved her. Motome hesitated at first because he didn't have a stable job and his earnings from teaching were low. But Hanshiro explained that he only wanted Miho to be happy with the person she loved. Motome then agreed and promised to always protect Miho. A few months after Miho and Motome got married, they had a son named Kingu. Hanshiro was very fond of his grandson and loved playing with him. A few days later, Miho fell ill and started coughing up blood. Worried about her health, Hanshiro told Miho to let him know if she needed help. That year, rumors spread about young samurais pretending to commit seppuku to get donations from the rulers. Hanshiro was surprised to hear this, but he stayed silent. Miho's health continued to worsen, and she kept coughing up blood. Worried, Motome decided to sell his books to earn money for her medicine. Unfortunately, the money he got wasn't enough, and he could only buy a small amount of medicine. Miho, feeling guilty about being sick, often apologized to Motome, thinking she was a burden. But Motome reassured her, telling her she was not a burden. Hanshiro, seeing his daughter's health decline, apologized to Motome for the worry his daughter was causing him. A few days later, Hanshiro heard that Kingu was sick with a high fever. Worried, he rushed to his daughter's house to check on his grandson. Motome had taken Kingu to the doctor, but the doctor asked for an advance payment of 3 ryos, which Motome couldn't afford. Motome asked Hanshiro to stay with Miho and Kingu at home while he went out to find money. He promised to return in the afternoon with the needed amount. After Motome left, Hanshiro and Miho tried to block the gaps in the house with paper to keep the cold air out. Hours passed and night fell. Hanshiro became worried because Motome had not returned. Miho, sensing something was wrong, checked on Kingu and realized he had stopped breathing. She panicked and cried, calling out her son's name. Hanshiro, seeing his grandson had passed away, also broke down in tears. Miho felt deeply guilty about her son's death and kept apologizing, saying she couldn't protect him. Hanshiro comforted her, assuring her that it wasn't her fault. After Hanshiro and Miho buried Kingu, some strangers arrived at their house. Still grieving Kingu's death, Hanshiro and Miho received more bad news. Motome had died. The men told them that Motome had committed seppuku honorably at the Lee family's home and handed over his body. Hanshiro was shocked and could not believe that Motome had gone to commit seppuku. He felt heartbroken and furious, especially when he saw Motome's sword had been replaced with a bamboo one, an insult to a samurai. Hanshiro chased after the men who brought Motome's body and demanded to know how he died. The men explained that Motome had likely planned to perform fake seppuku at the Lee family's house to get money, but ended up performing real seppuku instead. Meanwhile, Miho looked at Motome's body with deep sorrow. Feeling that she had lost everything, she decided to end her life the same way as her husband. After suffering greatly, Miho passed away beside Motome's body. When Hanshiro returned and saw his daughter had taken her own life, he was devastated. He then vowed to take revenge on the Lee clan. The story shifts back to Hanshiro in Mr. Kageyo's courtyard, ready to continue his seppuku. Hanshiro spoke about Motome, saying that he had acted honorably because he sold his sword to help his family. Although Motome's actions of trying to commit fake seppuku were wrong, forcing a samurai to use a bamboo sword was a disgrace to both the samurai and his family's pain. Mr. Kageyo then asked Hanshiro what had happened to his best samurai. In response, Hanshiro pulled out the money left on Motome's body and the top knots of Mr. Kageyo's best samurai. Hanshiro explained that after hearing about the fake seppuku, he had sought out the samurais who let Motome suffer. He defeated them and took their top knots as proof that they had lost their honor as samurais. After hearing this, Mr. Kageyo ordered his samurais to kill Hanshiro and left the courtyard. Hanshiro, unafraid of death, drew his bamboo sword and prepared to fight all the samurais. Having lost everything, he showed no fear. Hanshiro led the samurais into Mr. Kageyo's house on purpose to find the Lee family symbol of honor and tear it down. When Mr. Kageyo saw his family's symbol destroyed, he was enraged. After destroying the symbol, Hanshiro surrendered, allowing Mr. Kageyo's samurais to strike him down. In his final moments, Hanshiro remembered the sweet memories of when his daughter gave birth to his beloved grandson. Soon after, Mr. Kageyo's samurai found Omataka and the other two samurais. Feeling deeply ashamed, Omataka and the two samurais decided to commit seppuku. A few days later, Mr. Kageyo's men repaired the Lee family's symbol of honor. When the Shogun clan visited Mr. Kageyo's residence, the symbol of honor was restored to its original state. The movie ends with a scene where the samurais pay their respects to the symbol of honor. So the moral of the story is, when life gives you bamboo swords, maybe it's a sign to rethink your life choices and not take revenge with office decor as your grand finale.